All right, what is up? So, back. So, like I said last video, I promised to get on some of these subjects that have been irking me while I've been gone. Um, so to hop right to it, this one, a short version of the story. Maybe not so short. Anyway, everybody knows I'm into martial arts and everything, and I had an instructor who I really, really admired for years. Um, and anyway, since all of this social justice warrior stuff has been going on, I've just been noticing like seeing him on Facebook, and it's like the more and more and more regressive uh, stuff, to where like especially lately with all the with Donald Trump being in office and and I never knew him. I mean the guy has a freaking uh, he's got a we the people tattoo on his arm. So it's like, and he's a former Marine. Anyway, I'm not going to drop his name, but if you know me personally, you probably know who I'm talking about. Um, but, it's just all this crazy stuff for like, you know, the national anthem is racist and all of this stuff. And like, he sends me things through like Facebook Messenger of like all this race baiting stuff, and I've made it quite clear that I hate that stuff. I mean, and my daughters they're black, and so anyway, he posted something about it was sort of a long post he put on Facebook, but it's the kind of stuff that I've seen, and it's not necessarily an attack on him. It's the mentality that I'm bothered with, because he was saying, you know, slavery was bad and all of this stuff, and I was like, okay, yeah, slavery, yeah, we got it, bad, that was bad. When the Irish were enslaved, that was bad, yes, okay. When the Africans were selling their people off as slaves, that was bad. But then he said something about, even though it was so long ago or whatever, and the Civil War happened, that we haven't actually had a chance to heal from all of this slavery. And so I didn't think that I was being really sarcastic, but I messaged back and I was like, okay, so I agree that all of that stuff was bad, and if we need to heal, what should we do? Should it be reparations? Should we beg for forgiveness? Should we, what are we supposed to do? And I said, I ask in earnest, because if you're gonna complain that hard and say that healing needs to take place, we need to know what are we supposed to do to heal. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to fix it? The Steve Shives of the world, the people that are constantly race baiting over and over and over again, and they just beat you over the head. Oh, but racism, slavery was there. Yes, I agree. Slavery was fucked up. There's still slavery going on right now. So it's like, what are we gonna? Are we gonna we just want to fight about it, or do you have an answer? So which was kind of my thing, and he blew up and he started calling me. He said, I think I'm sort of paraphrasing, but I'm going to try to get as close as I can. He said something like, "Oh, this white boy mentality sickens me." And he's like, I can tell people's character by their posts and their responses, and I can see you and I feel you." And I was like, uh, what the fuck, dude? Like, dude, I asked you if you have an answer, and that's the the brain rot, and these people, especially, I mean, tons of my friends, they're becoming like Marxist, the more they're what is it? They're like anarcho Marxists. They hate America because America had slaves, and America killed the Indians and whatever else. Like we rape babies and whatever. And it's like they just like the horse with the blinders on. They only want to see the negative shit that's ever happened. And yes, that stuff happened, but it happened in the past. And not to say that racism doesn't exist. It exists. Yeah, and when we see it, we should stomp it out. But we can't do this Antifa shit to where we're like, oh, we're gonna punch Nazis, because like how you can't determine who's a Nazi, and you can't just punch people for shit that they say. They say racist stuff. You say, hey, that was a terrible thing to say. Don't say that shit. I don't want to hear you say that. If you're gonna say that or whatever, get the fuck away from me. Like, just disassociate yourself from those people. But you have to have a legitimate reason for doing so. You can't just say, oh, well, he's a Trump supporter, so he's racist. That's, to put it lightly, that is such a stupid and unfair approach. To just label somebody you disagree with a Nazi or whatever. And that's this regressive mentality that, like, if you don't think like we do, you're a piece of crap. And I can't. My kids have to grow up in this environment, And so, like, and that was the point that I was trying to get to with this, oh, the white boy, telling me I got a white boy mentality. The fuck does that mean? And then he dropped something about, the people that came out of the Caucasus Mountains and the caves or whatever were different. And I'm like, so, wait a minute, are you making a race realism argument? Because I thought the left hated that. I mean, that's what the alt-right people do. They're this race realist, they're which I've read the bell curve, and I mean, it is what it is. I really don't care because the facts in the bell curve don't really matter. But if you look at the statistics and stuff like that, Asian people are the smartest. Then there's white people. Then there's black people. But black people are more this, and white people, that's the whole race realism thing that's pissing the left off. But it's like, if you're going to say white people are different from black people, then I can say black people are different from white people in some sort of way and not be racist, right? I mean, am I crazy, or is the rest of the world crazy, or are we crazy? I mean, what the fuck are you talking about? And that's why I hate this fucking race baiting stuff. It's so infuriating, because then they turn around and like, you're a bad person because you don't think what I think. And I know that Columbus killed the Indians. And I know that America killed everybody else and enslaved the black people. I was like, okay, but was that yesterday? Or last month? I mean, I've Googled pretty hard, and I'm finding it hard to find a chain of stories where we're lynching people. I mean, that stuff was terrible. When when Billie Holiday had that song "Strange Fruit," that stuff was still going on, man. And yeah, it's not that long ago, and there are people that are alive that experienced that stuff, but it's not happening now, not to the great extent. There's not swarms of white hooded retards fucking walking through the streets of Washington. You have one thing in Charlottesville, and I'm not trying to to downplay what those assholes are. But you got a couple of hundred idiots with tiki torches walking around saying blood and soil, whatever. That doesn't scare me. That just says there's where the dummies are. Now we know where they are. Cool. It's a good thing there's not a lot of them. Now, if you could make a case, if on any given weekend that uh, you know New York, Chicago, New Orleans, Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Francisco. I mean, you're not going to see this stuff in California, maybe. But if all of these cities all had the same sort of demonstration all at the same time, then I would say, okay, now there's hundreds of thousands of these assholes. Now we got a problem. But what's going to happen is we're going to get more and more of this alt-right crap because the left, the Overton window is pushing so far over that now the left is just like, even people that were moderate liberals like myself now were considered fucking right wing, and it's there is no more moderate left. You're either a Marxist, whatever, and you're way over here, or you're a right wing. Even the libertarians, they're like, oh, you guys are racist too. I mean, all you have to do is say, well, I kind of support some of the things Donald Trump does. Oh, there you racist. So it's just enraging me that these people they make up shit. And then during that argument that we were having, which was short, because once I told them, I was like, it's obvious that we can't have an honest and open discussion about these weighted subjects like slavery or racism, so I'm out. And some other person on the feed, they were like, well, it's clear that America got all of its wealth through slavery. And I'm like, no, that's, no, it didn't. I mean, we fought a war to end slavery, and yes, slavery had something to do with it, and that's the reason why we fought the war, but it's not how America became as wealthy and prosperous as we are right now. It is not the sole factor. Does it have a part to play in it? Yeah, but at this point in history, it's actually quite small. Because we've got the Industrial Revolution, we had 2 world wars, we've the tech revolution, the GM, Ford, all this. I mean, we can just go on down the list. Plus our geography, we've got we're in like the perfect spot with the perfect amount of land where nobody can invade us, and we have all of the farmland. So it's like those are huge reasons why we've got the wealth, plus our population. We do more stuff, and when you do more stuff, you get more money. But you can't beat it through these people's heads that's how this. No, they have to blame it on it's white man, and that's what the whole thing boils down to. All of this leftist movement, Marxism, everything, it all boils down to they need a bad guy, and white people are their sweet, sweet target because of history. But they completely ignore anything ever done by any other, because they completely ignore the fact that Native Americans were killing each other before anybody got here. The tribes were warring, and that's one of the reasons the tribes lost, is because they couldn't get along. And I mean, you have to say the natives put up a damn good fight for 400 years until finally they were picked off enough to where, like, okay, they still won't get together, but we'll just narrow them down because they're really hard to defeat. I mean, if the natives if all of the tribes would have united and say, we're getting these assholes out of here, it would have been a different story. But also, if I crapped a purple monkey, it'd eat a banana. It just didn't happen. And, and they always forget about the part where natives were picked off. 90% of natives were picked off by disease, and not just white people running about shooting them, which that did happen, and they were being raped and everything. Hell, that's probably how I got here. But the regressive thought pattern is just it's so narrow-minded. They pick their thing to microscope, and then they just pound on it and pound on it. And it's I hate to use these cliche terms, but they cherry pick everything. Oh, look at it. See, there's one.